You're listening to the Black Steps podcast, episode number 30. Welcome to the Yard of Greatness podcast. My name is June Allen, your sister in service from juneallen.net. On this show, I empower non-white listeners to prioritize their racial wellness and emotional sobriety. The platform is for educational purposes, is based on my experiences, and is shared in good faith. Always consult your doctor, therapist, or licensed mental health professional before applying any of the suggestions given within this platform. The vision is to build a blackalicious life of empowerment so there can be peace. Now on with the show. Greetings family, greetings. Welcome to the Yard of Greatness. June Allen here, and thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be carrying on the conversation and talking about the 7 keys to Black empowerment. Today we're talking about the 3rd key, which is understanding white supremacy. You have to understand white supremacy. Week 1 we talked about truth, telling the truth. Key 2 was about using the tools, and today we're going to be talking about our oppressor, understanding white supremacy. Now this is a really, really important key, because if you don't understand how you're being impacted by racism, if you don't understand the system, then it's going to be difficult for you to be able to practice counter-racist behaviours if you don't understand how the system operates. So you need to be able to understand how it operates. Now there is a lot of information out there about racism, and I know that there are still a lot of people out there that still think that racism is just about bigotry and name calling and stuff like that, and it's so much bigger than that. Now, for those of you that are not aware, there's a brother called Mr. Neely Fuller, who first started talking about racism being a system. It's not just about kind of, one-on-one incidents with people and stuff like that. It actually operates as a global system of oppression. Now, he identified that there are 9 areas of what he calls people activity where racism plays itself out. And the 9 areas of people activity are economics, education, entertainment, labour, law, politics, religion, sex and relationships, and war. Now, Neely Fuller's got a fantastic book where he breaks down each of the areas of people activity. The book is called the United Independent Compensatory Concept Code. I can never get the name of this book right. But basically, the short term for it is called the Code. Actually, you know what? Let me just go and get the book, and then I can tell you properly what it's called. Okay, so I've gone and got the book now. So the book is actually called the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and/or action for victims of racism, white supremacy. Mr. Fuller says that if you don't understand racism, white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand is only going to confuse you. The world really does make a lot more sense, or the way that white people behave, the way that the system operates, makes a lot more sense when you really get into the meat of this book. I'm not going to go into it too deeply today because I could go on forever about the stuff in this book, but it really is fantastic, and it just helps you really understand how the different layers of racism and how it infiltrates every area of our lives. If you're a person of colour, particularly a black person, there isn't anywhere in the world that you can go that you're not going to experience racism. And not only does he talk about the 9 areas of people activity in the book, but he also talks about how the system operates, how it evolves, and how it never really goes away. There are people out there that might think, oh well, slavery, because slavery's been abolished, that somehow racism is no longer around, and because we've had America's had a black president or whatever, that it's easy for them to say, oh well, we can't, racism doesn't exist anymore because you've had your black president. But the system actually evolves. It evolves to suit the times. And one of the things that a lot of black people need to understand is that one of the biggest reasons why racism is still so powerful is because black people are used to enable the system. That's a huge part of it. Because when we talk about the numbers and stuff like that, globally, white people are the minority. So the reason why they're able to get away with the way that they get away with is because, we've had so many years of abuse that we end up enabling our own oppression because we still haven't healed from the impact of racism. So if you really want to start from the beginning and understand what racism is about, then this book by Brother Neely Fuller is an excellent place to start. There's also a fantastic word guide that goes with it, and he breaks down how racism is used in language and what the appropriate terminologies and language that we should use instead as a counter-racist behaviour. Okay, so I've given you a kind of brief overview through Neely Fuller's book as to what racism is. Now we're going to talk about why racism is here. Okay, so to really understand why racism is here, I'm going to be talking about another amazing elder. She's no longer with us, God bless her, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, and she is the one that's given us the breakdown of why racism is here. Now, she has a great, fantastic book called The ISIS Papers, and she breaks down the whole shebang about racism, white supremacy, and what she, in her work, she's actually explained that racism is about white genetic annihilation. In reality, white people are less than 10% of the global population. And there was a recent study that came out that was saying that white people are actually dying off a lot quicker than they are having babies. So that means that if things keep going the way that they're going, that white people could end up being extinct within a few generations. So Dr. Welsing's work, it explains and breaks down how racism is about white genetic survival. It's about their fear of being annihilated, and it's about survival. So, and obviously the reason why black people in particular are targeted so much is because we are genetically dominant, and we are the greatest threat to white genetic annihilation. So that's why black people in particular are targeted a lot more than other people. So it makes sense. It makes sense when you hear how she breaks it down. It makes sense why white people behave the way they do. And as a system, their only way of kind of avoiding annihilation is to maintain power. Is to maintain power over us, and brainwash us to think less of ourselves, to destroy ourselves, to enable that process through our own practices, through our own self-hate. And because we went through all the years of slavery and Jim Crow and all of that kind of stuff, which were very psychologically abusive practices for a very, very long time. We are consciously and unconsciously partaking in our own death. So if we have a look at Dr. Welsing's, she's got her own definition of racism, white supremacy, and it's this. Racism, white supremacy is the local and global power system and dynamic structure and maintained by persons who classify themselves as white, whether consciously or subconsciously determined, which consists of patterns of perception, logic, symbol formation, thought, speech, action and emotional response, and conducted simultaneously in all areas of people activity, economics, education, entertainment, labour, law, politics, religion, sex and war, for the ultimate purpose of white genetic survival and to prevent white genetic annihilation on planet Earth, a planet upon which the vast and overwhelming majority of people are classified as non-white, black, brown, red and yellow by white-skinned people, and all non-white people are genetically dominant in terms of skin coloration compared to the genetic recessive white-skinned people. So her book, The Isis Papers, are a collaboration of essays that she wrote as her years in the years that she trained as in psychotherapy. And so she talks about narcissism, she talks about the impact of the black family, she talks about black fear, she talks about the destruction of the black child, she talks about black male feminization, she talks about so many different things. And she was she was a great friend of Neely Fuller as well, so that their works together create a really beautiful platform for kind of understanding racism, white supremacy as an external oppressive system. So you have Neely Fuller telling you what racism is, Dr. Welsing is telling you why racism is here and talks about the behaviours of white people and stuff like that, and how it impacts the family. So how do we heal? How do we actually heal from this? We know what and we know why. Now we need the how. And this is what we're going to be talking about next time when we talk about the fourth key, which is understanding the wound. What is the impact of racism on your life? And this is going to be one of the most important keys that we're going to be talking about, because if you don't understand the wound, then you're not going to heal, and we're not going to end white supremacy. And oh my gosh, next week I really dig into it. Next time I really dig into how important the wound is and how you can actually start to make changes about that. So yeah, I look forward to catching up with you next time. See you then. This podcast is sponsored by the Yard of Greatness Empowerment Program, Build Your Blacknificence. A compassionate 6-week mastermind honouring the wounded daughters of abusive black mothers. We're constantly told that we should honour our mothers, but what do you do when she repeatedly behaves dishonourably? Many wounded daughters cope with maternal abuse by venting to others, blaming yourself, and believing that things will change if you just try harder. Deep down, you know that these things don't work, and now you're trapped inside the resentment of being unheard. What has been the cost of that relationship? What has been the cost of you not addressing your pain? How does it impact your ability to love, to thrive? If you're exhausted by the self-doubt and anxiety around your mother's behaviour, I have an opportunity that will transform the way that you feel about yourself and the relationship. If you're scared of hurting your children the way your mother hurt you, then this space will empower you to review and recharge the way that you parent. After the success of the webinar, I'm Scared of Becoming My Mother, wounded daughters of abusive black mothers will have an intimate, non-judgmental space to understand the wound, connect with others, and heal through self-empowerment and self-parenting. If you're a wounded daughter looking for a compassionate space to heal, go to daughters.juneallen.net. The mastermind will launch on March the 10th, 2018. I hope to see you there.